My name is James Walter Edward Willis Sr. Uh, my age is 87 at this date.
When you first went to England and you crossed on the USS John Erickson and you went to Liverpool,
Yeah.
and you told us a little bit about your experience when you got to Liverpool.
Well, I was amazed because they wouldn't let all the ships go in and unload. They held them back out, and you had to go on one ship at a time. There was 42 troop ships that left the United States that before we got there, we counted, and 2 aircraft carriers and 2 submarines that was following us.
And you had to stay below decks for 17 days, didn't you?
Yeah.
Mm.
And so we got off, we had to walk down the gangplank off the Erickson, the Luster liner. It was that we was over here when the war broke out and we declared war. And we kept it and used it as a troop ship and supply trip. Walked down this long chute with rope, like a folding bridge and sections. And we got, and then we went across a little narrow street. Looked like it was where you run. Streets wasn't much wider than this tabletop. Had a little shopping carts and things like that. And we went down another step, down into the tunnel, and it was sort of winding steps till we got down to the platform in the tunnel, and we got on one of them little dinky engine trains. I don't know how many was on it, but there was a lot of cars on it, and they was all filled, and then went up. And when we came out up next to Manchester.
Oh, I see.
Up in Northern, up on the north coast.
So you talked about one day watching P-51s and P-47s going on in an underground shelter.
Yeah.
To hide from the buzz bombs.
Yeah. See, we was out in the field and had these big oak trees around it and some hedges, and we set up on a high knob, and you could look off in the distance with a pair of field glasses. You can see some of the towns. And the boxer Tony Fires, he had a fish and chip joint in a restaurant over there. Of course, he'd fought Joe Louis back before them in the United States. So what we did, from our sergeants, whoever was in charge of our tent up there, they give us so many, maybe a half hour to go down and get us a beer and or get us a fish and chip dinner or something instead of the dinner we'd eaten. And then we had to hurry back and let somebody else go. And we said, what? But over from us, and right around where our camp was a field full of cattle. And they had a little narrow runway just for the small planes, and well, you could take a pretty good sized plane too. But the thing of it is, when the planes would go out, they'd go in one side of this tunnel, they'd come in from the raids and things, and they'd come in and hit the ground and go down here, and then at this door in this cliff was a good big carbon part. And it was just like going through a tunnel. And they'd go in there and they'd get refueled and everything and come out way away. But the fence would move the cattle back. And you wouldn't realize what was going on. And here we was sitting back up on this other high knob, watching all this go by,
Wow.
and training, taking advanced training and studying the German language and the Italian and French. We had at one time I could speak pretty much German and French language. And I still know some of it. I speak some of it, a little bit, not much.
You went from Liverpool and then you went down the coast and you ended up in Southampton.
Yeah, we was up at Liverpool, something like 12 or 15 days in this one camp, and when I was up there, for exercise, we boxed, we wrestled, and everything, and I boxed with this guy that Billy Kahn. He was a prize fighter. He fought over here in the United States.
You fought him?
Yeah, we had a ring roped off square, 4 stakes and a rope around it, and flat place, and had an old tarp down. We had some boxing gloves. We boxed.
While you were training and learning German and Italian and French, did you have much information as to where you were about to go or why they were, I mean, you knew about the war, but did you know that you were headed to France? Did they educate you at all as to?
When we left Shenango, Pennsylvania, that was the last stop, we headed north. We didn't know where we was going, whether we were going to Italy, or going to Japan, or China, or whatever over there. And we trained more and got new equipment, and then when we got up the road there, before we got to Boston, they said, well, you're going to Fort Miles Stannis. Nobody ever heard of Miles Stannis. It was out on the Atlantic coast, and it's sandy beach and everything. And everything was like little tin huts or just enough to get out of the weather, and 8-man tents, just like a campsite. And the railroad that was on was quite a ways from where the tents were, inland. So when we changed and got all our other equipment, they taken in all the old equipment we had that came from the United States, taking that in and give us brand new equipment, and they give us this impregnated clothes for gas and everything. And then they handed us this manual, German manual and a Russian manual and so forth. And guys, most of their chaplains and everything, they speak a lot of different languages, and they call us into a tent in sections and give us a lecture. We'd be in there for an hour or two at a time, maybe 2 hours. And so when that was over, so one morning they sounded off. It says all the troops in the hut or section I was in, says fall out fully dressed. We're going to take a little trip. We're going to take a trip on the train. And when we got on that train, they said, well, we're going to, you going up to Boston. And that was real early. And the train taking its time going from Miles Stannis up to Boston, and we stayed on that train up there until late in the evening. And it was almost dark. And they marched us out of that and put us on the John Erickson. And then when we got on the John Erickson, we didn't know, we couldn't go on deck or make any lights or anything. And the next morning when we woke up, we was out at sea, we couldn't even see land. and then they told us where we was going.
To England.
Yeah, so you're going to England. They didn't say we were going to go into invasion or anything. They just said you're going to England.
Mm.
They didn't want to let us know.
How long were you out at sea? Do you remember?
It was 13 days.
From Boston
Yeah,
to
in
Liverpool?
a convoy, and we had convoys, as I said, as far as we could look on deck when we, certain time of the day, we could be out on deck. But when night come or anything like that, we couldn't go out there and smoke or cause any disturbance on deck. We had to walk like church mice around, you know, and feel yourself around. There wasn't no lights. And we had a submarine scare, a German submarine. We had dropped depth charges and everything off of our cruisers that was with us, the submarine chasers.
Mm.
Keep the submarine getting into the fleet, into the main course. And them old depth charges, they go down so far, and then you see a great big puddle of water come up at a distance.
When you guys were all set to go to Normandy, when you loaded the boats at Portsmouth,
Yeah, well, see, when after, let's see, after we got into England, out of Manchester, we went down to Southampton and Winchester, and through Birmingham. We had we was about 4 days. We moved so far, so many of us, to a section of the country, like you're playing checkers on a checkerboard, you know.
Yeah.
And you never knew how long we were going to be there, but we was in a out of way place, you know. One place I was in, one evening I was going to take a shower very dark, and I was in the shower, and I had to leave the metal tent. It was like a thing you'd have on a farm you drive a tractor on, and we had beds set up in there, or cots,
Like a
folding
carport?
cots, huh?
Like a carport kind of thing?
Yeah, it was something like that there, but you could put about 20, 25 cots in
Quonset hut.
each one of huts.
Quonset hut.
Yeah, concert huts. And so when they come send that buzz bomb and then Stukas over there and was dropping, I had to leave that and go into an underground tunnel.
Mm.
And I was half dressed. Yeah, I had to stay in there for about an hour or so until they,
Wow.
and then go back. And it wasn't too warm either.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
When you guys loaded the ships to go to Normandy, and you crossed the channel.
Yeah, we had there was about 3 ships, but some of them loaded out of Southampton, some of them loaded out of Winchester, and there's another little docking area there. I forget right now the name of it.
Birmingham? No.
No, Birmingham was a base. That was a training base for the English in Air Corps up there. They was in huts too, and underground.
Okay. Were you in Southampton?
Yeah,
Were you in Southampton?
yeah. I left England at Southampton, and when we went across the channel, and we was on it wasn't a big ship. There was always quite a few people on it. It was more or less like a company or two, different. You might have had a brigade on it.
Your job.
But you was in sections. Pardon?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You was in sections, and say one outfit was on one end of the ship, and the other on the other, and the other in the middle, and you had a little old, like a pup or something you lay out on the shade tree with ropes on it. If you wanted to lay down or something like that there, you didn't know how long you were going to be on it. But when that bell went off on the ship, you hit the deck, your outfit. The command would come down through your loudspeaker to the section that you was in. And you had to roll out in them wherever they told you when you went out. And had to climb down off of this ship into the landing barge, which was, I'd say, approximately a mile off shore. I don't know, that channel was 50 miles across. And we got off of this other boat out about middle of the channel. And with the battleships and everything, cruisers and everything, heavy stuff, you know. That, with the guns that lobbed in, that was backing us up when we hit the beach. But they had to keep them back behind us until we got in, and so that the troops could hit the thing, and then they opened up behind them, and it's just like a 4th of July. The sky shook and everything, and the light. Then our Air Force was up there too. Yeah, we had a lot of tangle with the German Air Force at that time.
And there were 8,000 planes on that day.
Yeah,
That's a lot of planes.
they was trying to drive us back, and dog fights and everything else, and the metal and stuff falling down. He's just lucky. Yes, he wasn't under.
Did you know you were going to France? Did you know?
Did I know I was going to France?
Yeah. Did they give you any information?
No, they didn't tell me until we got out to where he climbed off this one boat going down and said, well, we're going in, this is June the 6th, D-Day.
Right.
We're gonna hit the shores today. And we'd had a storm in the channel, and then they didn't know where we was gonna make it that day, but it settled down enough for we did.
Mm.
The weather was pretty bad. It wasn't no sunshine at that time.
What were
It's
some of the
kind of-
problems you had going into the beach?
It didn't have no sunshine until about maybe 24 hours later after we hit the beach, before we got a hold of any real bright light. And it's just like after the sun goes down here, say 9 o'clock in the evening, right now. That's the way it was for a long time after we hit the landing barges to go in, and when we got in, it was still gloomy, and that's the reason we got so close where we could put the bandoliers and stuff out that was in. And when the word got back to the cruisers and the battleships out in the channel that was backing us, they start laying down this heavy artillery, shooting everything on the other side of it, and moving right on in, making path for us. And we had to follow right in, and then the strays that got caught in between, they were either enemy or civilians. And the only way you could tell them by the language or by the way they was dressed.
Mm.
And the Free French, there was a lot of Free French involved in that. That it sends signals to us. There's like investigators, there was observers that got behind the line. See, they dropped in early. See, we had the paratroopers. They dropped ahead of us too. they dropped way back in Germany in an isolated area, and then they spread it out and come towards us, and you got everything. Other words, the German Panzer Division and everything. We caught them off guard from both sides. That's what it amounted to.
When you were crossing the channel that morning, did you leave at dusk? Did you leave from England?
Did it do what?
Did you leave at, you left at dusk, right? From England to cross the channel that day? Did you board the boats from England? Did you leave, did you board the day before and then set sail through the night?
No, say the boat that we left Southampton on, we didn't board that until it was dusk in the night, and we got out to the middle of the English Channel with the larger boat that we was on that we boarded at Southampton, and then we climbed down this a rope ladder into the landing craft, and we had to go in, close to maybe a mile before we got into really gun range of the Germans or something. And then we had to, when they started shelling us, we had to board the craft, because the landing barge, they couldn't get up for the obstacles, so we had to swim in around the obstacles and put these bandoliers in there and blow it up so that the jeeps and landing supply wagons could get in.
Do you know what beach you landed on? Do you know if you landed?
Omaha, Utah. See, we were on both beaches. See, Omaha and Utah, and we come out right in, and my outfit, like that, just the whole outfit was covered Omaha and Utah beach. And it's on the map. You've seen it in the paper, I reckon.
But you don't know where you specifically landed.
Huh?
You don't know where you specifically landed. Your troops were to come in and go to Omaha in Utah, but you don't know. As far as
Only thing that marker or anything there wasn't nothing except the map of Omaha and Utah Beach, and that's where we hit between the two and was branched out. See, we were a big outfit.
so you were right in between.
Well, it could have been.
Yeah.
I could have been in between. It could have been on the right or left, either one.
Right.
But
you
before I got away from that beach, I'm up and down, zigzagging back and forth and everything. It's hard to tell. But that's the only marker I got. It's just Utah, Omaha Beach.
And you said you had to swim a fair amount of distance.
Oh, we had to swim a good city block almost. A float with them horseshoe rolls. See, we had our bed rolls and everything real tight and waterproof up over top of that. That kind of protects us from a lot of the shrapnel and everything. And then we had all this other equipment. A knapsack had 3 days rations and a knapsack behind us with a little metal food kit with a lid on it, and sticking down in it. And what you had in that, you had cigarettes and chocolate bars and peanut butter, peanut butter things like you get in the store, and little cheese crackers.
Mm.
That's all you had. You had if you got stuck and that's all you had for 3 days. That was 3 days ration, just in that little mess kit about like that. And you had your spoon, knife, and fork too. and it was sticking in that, and you had your bayonet and your trench knife on one side of your pack, and on the other, if you didn't have it on the front of your rifle, but we had it on the front of our rifle after we got out off the ship. We put it on what was in the landing barge, so when we hit, we'd have the where we could do the bayonet drills. See, that's one thing we did in bayonet. I got hit with a with a. I almost lost a eye here in a drill, gun butt, and I had wear patch for a long time. I still got the patch at home.
Mhm.
So
And
your job was to blow up those beach obstacles.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So we had like jeeps, transportation, the officers and everything. They was right behind us, guidance from. We had these walkie-talkies, and we had a direct with the headquarters and everything. And they give us our orders to our leaders, and then our leaders would pass it down the line, have runners. It was a mess.
Some guys couldn't swim.
You know, a lot of them couldn't swim. A lot of them didn't make it because the shells or something explode, or they was in the wrong position. I don't know how many we pulled ashore, or I had a couple guys I got them to that couldn't swim, and pulled them before they could touch bottom, because that water was deep when we went off that. To get on that landing barge until we got way into shore.
Well, plus you were wearing so much equipment,
Huh?
right? You were wearing so much equipment.
Yeah, well, we had 95 pounds of equipment. The average soldier did with everything.
What were you wearing that day?
Yeah, we had. He had 16, 8 clips, but they wide and with shells in it. He had about eight shells to a clip, and you had 12. You had 12 or 14 clips plus 2 in each side of your gun belt, and some of you had your 45 as well as the gas mask and your first aid kit and everything in case you got hit. And
Do you remember the temperature of the water? Was it warm? Was it cold?
right now I couldn't say,
Yeah.
but because it was right warm to a certain extent, because after all that fire and bodies in that water and the weather and everything, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't freezing. But it was right cool. But it was bloody. It was bloody every time we got in the beach, because so many wounds and everything. It was real bloody.
A lot of blood.
And then they had the rest of the medics coming along behind them, picking up us one of the bodies and everything, and taking them, see if they could get them survived and everything.
What were you thinking when you landed on the beaches?
Honey,
Or were you thinking?
always thinking that you want to get the thing over with and get on with the job, because you wasn't there by yourself. You wasn't there for just yourself. You was there to help one another. Yeah. And we backed up on we never went in a position unless there's 2 or 3 of us in a distant foxhole. We dug in or something like that there. He would be in one end of the foxhole and I'd be in the other, and I'd be facing him and he'd be facing my back. So if somebody come in on the side, we could look like that. I know one thing, on the Cherbourg Peninsula, I had steak, but I thought it was the Germans infiltrating there. area where we had our ammunition trains and our supply wagons, and was four of us sitting on one. I was. You can whisper words, or we had a little combat wire with a little speaker on it. We could speak in it, and you carry it to the command post. If you went into a position, you were going to be holding something like that, like we'd come in with a load of ammunition, park their trucks, and get to something to eat and everything. Left one there to while you eat, and then you relieved him. He went back to eat. You did not everybody go up to the chow wagon at the same time. And if something happened, it wouldn't be everybody in the same place. That you wouldn't be so outnumbered. See.
When you landed on the beaches in D-Day and you finally made your way inland, you were in St. Mary Glade? St. Mary's Glade? Were you in St. Mary's?
St. Mary's English, yeah.
Right.
That was St. Mary's English was the first stop that we made after 3 days in battle.
Right.
After we climbed down off the ship, that's the first rest we had. And we were supposed to have, we wasn't really, expecting to be separated, but we didn't have enough left when they taken the roster to keep the combat engineers, what was left that made D-Day. So they decided to put them into these replacement companies. Some went in the infantry, and some went in the signal corps, and some went to artillery, and some went to communications,
Because
like
you
survey, recons.
Because you lost so many men
Yeah.
getting to the beaches,
Yeah.
getting onto the beaches and coming up.
So we didn't get any rest that night until we got up. After we got off the truck on the cover of darkness, we struck around about 5 or 10. We didn't have 20 miles of beachhead at that time. And when the trucks landed, we got out where there's a couple of advanced officers. That's where I met Colonel Green and Lieutenant Steele and Kelsey and the first sergeant. They was in a Piper Cub that had made. They was ahead of us. They come in behind while we was over there trying to get rest or something like that. There, get caught up and get some chow. And that night, what bothered me, we had canned soup. They come and one of these little 3/4 ton truck came out with a little trailer on the back of it, and had these cans of soup with a little burner of some kind, and the water was hot and got hot. They'd hand us one of them, and we popped the top on it and had some cheese and crackers, and we just got that down when the trucks come after us that night. And so that's all we got until we got to the next day. Because when we went around through the area, it's all hedge country.
Yeah, what did it look like there? What was?
Well, they didn't have no fences over there. The French in Normandy, it was all hedges, and stock couldn't get through it. Only a rabbit could probably get through it, or something like that.
A rabbit?
Yeah, but I didn't see no rabbits. And so anyhow, when they jolted us out, we got on them trucks, and we went around, and we end up in another apple orchard where Colonel Green and Captain Shue and the first sergeant and Lieutenant Steele and Halsey and Purdell, they was all lieutenants and first lieutenants and captains. And so each one had a part to do in each of the companies. So, and we had a World War I veteran, Sergeant Berry. He was from Winchester, Virginia here. He'd been in service for a long time. He was over 50 years old at that time. And they give him command for to place us around this hedge field at distance and run the communication where we'd have contact with each other. And told us not to smoke or make any noise, not to move out until the next morning at dawn, that if everything went right, that we would be signed to our unit, the one that we would be with during the rest of the war. And that's what happened. So they had four first line batteries sections, and Abel, Baker, and Charlie, and Jingle, and then they had the service and headquarters that made up the 981st Battalion. And I think, each of our guns, it takes 20 men to operate and service a section, one unit. That is, some had to bring ammunition, throw it in the shell, and some shove it in, and then you set the quadrum and the elevation, and you get that. The section chief would have to do all of that, and before we fired them, and it was just like you had an automatic machine gun. We could set it up and they go pop, 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 and none of the shells would go to the same place. But it just cut down everything wherever it hit.
And you had 55-pound shell fall on your foot from a truck.
Yeah. Yeah. And we carried on. Every time we went back to the dump, we carried 100 shells and 100 charges and 250 different warheads for the shells. One was the armor-piercing, incendiary, and armor-piercing, incendiary, and tracers.
Tracers.
Yeah. So you fire the tracers to get a lineup, and it comes zooming over, and once you get a zero in or something, know where they at or where you want to shut, then you, if it's something like there, like a tank or something like that there, where you put your armor person in it and knock the tank out.
You told us to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When you were finally assigned?
Huh?
When you were finally assigned to a unit, or what were you assigned to? What did they put you in? You know how you said there were a bunch of guys that they just kind of collected, and then Colonel.
Well,
Green.
see, you learn in the Army. You learn through basics and through active training that you be able to fall in place somewhere if somebody gets knocked off and they need you.
Okay.
And so this way, when I wasn't on the ammo train, going through machine gunning on that, and loading and getting it back to the company or to the troops. And when I got into there and got set up like we did at St. Lo, well, we take guard. We take guard for 2 hours. This man in this foxhole, and then the guy that's in the foxhole with it, he take it for 2 hours, and then same way the rest of the foxholes they knew where we was at. You never got to pull 8 hours or 10 hours at that time. The only time we got 8 or 10 hours when we got the R&R in the back, or got a new equipment or something like that there, or we had problems. We brought up somebody else.
You had some problems with your teeth one time, didn't you, when you were in the field?
Pardon?
You had some problems with your teeth one time when you were in the field?
Oh yeah,
Dr. Spatz
I was in the hurricane forest. I had toothache. I had 2 teeth aching, and Elwood Bennett from Front Royal here. He was in the 1st Infantry Division. They were bivouacked. His company was bivouacked before we were around us, and the other unit was up on the front line. The other part of it. And he had toothache, and so Colonel Spatz, he come around and checked us if I had a scratch or something like that there, wasn't doing so well. And he said it was up on a stump where this tree had been cut off, and it's sit back there high. He said it up there and pulled our teeth.
Yeah. You just pulled them?
Yeah.
No Novocaine, he just pulled your teeth.
Well, he had some kind of pain pills, but I don't know what it was. But they didn't. But my teeth was already loose and it was aching, and pulled 2 of them. Mm-hmm. And same way, Bennett and Roger Lockhart here in Front Royal. He was in the 1st Infantry Division too. But he was a messenger from headquarters. And he'd go through the line, go back to the 1st Army, and he taking troops and picking mail up and taking it back to the front. He was with the infantry company, and they took him off that and put him, made him a sergeant for dispatcher. Mm. And I rode with him up to the 1st Army headquarters and had dinner with him one night while I was bivouacked in Hurricane Forest. They was up on the River Duran, and we were back in the forest, in the mud. Yeah.
How was dinner that night?
Huh?
How was dinner that night?
Yeah, it was just GI chow. It was well, sometimes we had the steak and sometimes we didn't. The only time we got steak is when a cow or deer get in front of us, and we'd knock him off. And the mess sergeant, he was a Texas wrangler, and a cook, his name was Shaw. And he'd hang up, take Derek on the back of the truck and heist him up and skin him out and flush him down with a hose and cut him up and put him in the frying pan and cook it. Chickens too.
It was really
Some of the farmers,
catch it, it's dinner.
some of the farmers, people had gone and left the chickens and everything running loose or in the old hen house or something. We go through town and we find chickens, chicken eggs and things like that there. We take them, pull them, send them, or either cook them or boil them in a helmet out on the foxhole or something, so where we could have a fire or down in there. And started over to St. Lo and Patton came abroad. he'd been hit ever since the African incident. He was involved down there in Third Army, and nobody knew where he was at until just the day before we got word that he was coming in, and he went through our lines, but he drawed fire because he had a bunch of green troops that hadn't been in combat. They just from the States. And when they come through the crossroads, Bid Charlie was up there. That was the German recon. And they figured there's troops down there, or something down there that they needed. And they dropped flares, and the train lit up, and they seen the convoy, and they come back on their plastic. And we had our first engine. I was at that night. They pulled me off the ammo truck, because our truck was in and was loaded, so we could distribute the next morning. Instead of us getting a night's rest, they taken this machine gunners off the ammo truck and put us out on the front round to protect their gun piece. Dug in and had them on a mount, and the mount was trenched like this, and then you, like an X. Have one guy over here, one over here, and the one, wasn't nobody in this front right there, but I was back here, and I was on the anti-aircraft guns, 50 caliber mounted on where you could shoot anyway. You could shoot ground level, or you could shoot aircraft. And when that Stuka come diving in to get the convoy, of course there was four other gun sites right along that line. We all zeroed in, and I could see what was Tracer Norman was hitting right in his plane. When his plane went down, we got him. Yeah, he didn't get. I don't know what happened to the pilots, because we wasn't there when they picked him up. But we shot down 3 planes that night.
Where was the highest number of casualties for the?
Well, at one time in my outside of St. Lo, we had 13 at one night.
One night, 13 men.
That's just that one time.
Yeah.
Now we up until St. Lo, after after I become a member of the 981st Field Artillery, we didn't have but 1 or 2 casualties, but they were minor, enough to go back to come home or go to England. And one of the guys that he was a medic in England from Front Royal, Virginia, and he recognized him, and he waited on some of the guys. That we had 13 casualties that one night, and it all came about Patton going through our lines, and the guys had the lights on the vehicle, and Ben says Charlie seen it was a crossroad and it was a convoy moving, and he come back with the German Air Force and just bombed the heck out of us. That's the night there's so many of us firing at these planes that's coming in at treetop level trying to drop bombs, and we got 3 of the planes that night. But and I could see my tracers and everything from my gun hitting right along, right behind the under the wing and from the propeller back to the middle of the ship. Because every third shell that went out was a centenary. And you got a 50 on a mount. You got, I think there's over 100 rounds in one of those boxes, I think. And that thing, as long as you hold your hand on that trigger and you get this gun. And the thing of it is, the whole thing was, we were sitting down, everything was quiet. We didn't, until the convoy started moving by, and we got some rest. We come off of ammunition and distributed it to our guns in the area, and we parked them, and we had something to eat. And then the first sergeant come back and says, "Well, the guys out on the front needs some rest and some rest. They've been out there for a long time, guarding the guns around." And Hughes was 4. And they put us out, taking over the position that the other guards that they brought in. And when we had it dug and laid out, and I had my helmet laying over on the bank on this side of it, and my shoes off to get some air on my feet. They just laying back on top of the property, see, when this all happened. But when this plane come over, I didn't think about putting on any shoes. I didn't think about putting on my helmet. At first, I got down there and I pulled the thing back on and see, just falling. And my helmet, I picked it up and slammed it on my head after I made a couple moves, put it on top of my head. And my shoes, I still didn't know what happened there. And them hot shells, in case of falling down, and I was dancing down the street.
Those things are hot when you step on them, boy.
Yeah, and here I got my hand on both sides of the triggers like this here, see? And you grip me a 50 caliber. And man, that thing, and you elevating it, see, you can go any way you want it, around or down. And here I was sitting up there, just plane, following that plane on down. I got there, and I was shaking and jumping at the same time until we got them out of the way. We got 3 of the planes that night. Wasn't more problem. Yeah. Oh man. I could see the letters on that German plane. It was a Stuka. It was a dive bomber that we were shooting at, that one. Then they had these other planes, what do you call them, 109s or something like that.
Messerschmitts.
Then they had a bomber way up there, but that bomber didn't get down close enough for us. He got away because our Air Force went after him. Yeah. And we was in the apple orchard too. Where we set up around the apple orchard in a hedgerow country. Yeah. German planes and everything. But we had to fight all the way through. That was St. Lo. And then we went on. From St. Lo, we went down to Falsey Gap, Rose Pocket, back up on the front. But see, like Able, they take two of the batteries and move them where the range was this time. And then if it's happening on this side, they take the other 2 batteries and secure them. Because we can shoot 22 miles and lay a shell in a washing tub. That was the range, and a lot of time we had the bore sight. And just like the Remagen Bridge, when we went into Remagen, see, as far as troops and everything over, we couldn't get across the river. So we had to sit back up on this hill bank, back in this apple orchard, on high rise, and lay down smoke and fire to keep the Germans back so we could build a bridge across there to get our reinforcements across the river and to protect the ones that was over there.
Do you remember where you were September 13th, 1944?
September when?
13th.
13th of September?
13th September.
13th of September. I was in Auckland, not Rodican.
Is that the Siegfried Line?
13th of September, yeah,
Yeah.
we invaded Germany. Yeah, at Reich in Germany, we first part of the First Army to get over the border.
One of the first units to cross over into Germany.
Yeah, that's between Aachen and Vinwegen.
You were there for a while.
Yeah, we was there for something like 6 or 7 weeks in that area.
Couldn't get supplies through there. The supply trains.
And we moved from Reichen into the Hurricane Forest, and we couldn't get across, and we sat there again for a while until Battle of the Bulge.
Do you remember the weather?
Wet, rain, fog, cold. Yeah.
The last time we talked about the Battle of the Bulge, you said that you looked like Jack Frost. You said you looked like Jack Frost in the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, yeah.
Because you didn't have any winter clothing.
No, we didn't have no winter boots or anything. The only thing we could wrap around us was a piece of tarpaulin or celluloid or something like that. Cellophane, like you wrap a steak in here. If we had, we have to do it that way.
So, you were with
The First Army.
in the First Army.
Yeah, First Army.
And is that what you were?
Yeah. I just, when you were finally assigned, you were in the First Army, 7th Corps, 981st Artillery.
Charlie Battery.
Battery.
Battery. Battery is for one battery is 4 guns, but it takes 12 guns to a battalion. That's for battalion section. But it's, in the Corps, 981st Battalion Corps, there was 16.
16 battalions.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
See, each of your active batteries had 4 guns each.
So then you finally made it to the Hurricane Forest in December.
Yeah, it was December. We got in a Hurricane Forest, but Vinwegen, we moved from Reichen over to Vinwegen. That's before you get to the Hurricane Forest. It's a pretty good sized village, town, and we got shelled. I was in the house, and the shell come right through the top of the house, and knocked the plaster and everything down. I was in the basement part of it. A couple of us. We was looking out through the windows in the basement towards the Hurricane Forest, because at that time we didn't know what was going on in the Hurricane Forest. Yeah, we was looking out through the window in the basement, and when we was looking out through the windows, and this shell come through, for German shell. They were shelling Vinwegen. See, they hadn't got back over to Düren, back across the thing here, and when a couple of days later, we tried to move up through the Hurricane Forest. We got up into the Hurricane Forest, but we couldn't get across to Düren on the Cologne Plains and Koblenz and everything going on toward Berlin, because they flooded the dikes up in Holland and everything, and had that rain and mud and everything. We just had to sit there, and then the Battle of the Bulge showed up, right behind, and then they taken 2 of our units and back to the Battle of the Bulge, and we was happened to be one of them. And when we got back to Battle of the Bulge, we got up too close to the Germans, and we got ahead of the infantry and other outfit, and we had to pull back and cross back over the bridge and set up again. And on New Year's Day, we made a drive, and we had I think about 1,500 pieces of artillery going off like automatic rifles right at the Germans, and that's what stopped them, keep them cutting the Red Ball supply line from Cherbourg to Antwerp. And that's where I got got my frozen feet, because we didn't have shoes and snow and everything up to your knees and ice and everything, and we was out there and no place to go but just. That's where McAuliffe said nuts to the Germans. Yeah, the airborne that was down there.
101st.
Uh-huh. And I was in one place down in the Battle of the Bulge. We got in this little village farm house, stable, tassel. And guess who was in there with me? I got in the manger that night with the hay, and I was sleeping, and I wake up the next morning, there was an airborne guy over in the other manger. He didn't know why I come in, and I didn't know he was in there. Just like a cow shed, you know. But they had manger that had hay in it. And we stayed together there for a couple of days in that area before we got moved on further. After dark. But we could smoke, like when we went back to the Battle of the Bulge. I was at this crossroad and everything. I'd taken the first 2 hours watch, and it was at that time it was after 10 o'clock at night. I was relieved by 2 other guys on. So at that time I smoked a little bit, but not much. And so we put the tent up over and get down in the foxhole and smoke. So no light or anything. We get out on you never got the smoke back. We got when we went into that position that night, that evening, late, we got in a big old farm barn that had one of these drive-through where you drive a wagon and everything, and they pulled the mess hall up into that, and then had us go back from the outpost and everything where we was at in a parameter, and it's 2 men at a time from each section until we got our dinner. That was the first hot dinner we had in 3 days.
Wow.
That was. The only thing we were living on in 3 days was a K ration or a C ration. And that was a little old chocolate bar and 5 cigarettes and a box of crackers with a little piece of cheese in it. That was about all for 3 days. We had that in a knapsack. And every time we go out on a problem like that, they would load up our knapsack. And so if we got caught out, we'd have enough for carry us for a couple of days to keep us from starving or to build our energy.
Halle,
Germany, and you ran across some German soldiers having a party, and they didn't know you guys were there. And they were dancing and having schnapps, and when you guys went in and captured them?
Oh, what town was this?
Hall, H-A-L.
Karlsruhe.
I'd written down Hall, but it might have been Karlsruhe.
Well, we ran into a lot of places we went into, and Germans didn't know it. We captured the town, and they was having, and the Germans had thought we was somewhere else, and they was having a party and dancing and hall and everything with all kind of officers and everything, and we were rounding them up, and we taking over the party and screaming, and they if they knew we was coming, wasn't too many of us at this time in this group that's taking this little town, see, and when we find something like that there, we didn't walk right in with our eyes closed. We scatter out and set up a chain of command, and then get back and bring up reinforcements before we move in. And we collect all the arms and everything at night and take the beer and distribute it around, because we've been on the road for at least a day or two.
Good for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you have to at least take the alcohol. Have a drink.
You met
I
a,
forget the name of that town too.
Was it-
Right
was
offhand.
was it Hadamar?
It wasn't a big town. It was a land village like town. It wasn't too many. It wasn't no big burg. At that time, there's a lot of places over there was a hangout for the Germans, you know. Just like when we was up there in England at their camp, not Milestones, but up in northern England there. We was out there, we didn't have all our outfit there. We just had part of it, the main branch, sections of it. Some of it was scattered all down through England. That's why when we left them up there, we had to go from up Manchester, clear down to Southampton, putting our outfit back together, because we was in little burgs scattered out. See?
You talked last time we talked. You talked about when you were in the Harz Mountains, and you went to a camp at Nordhausen, which was a concentration camp.
Yeah, and Nordhausen was the Gestapo headquarters.
Gestapo headquarters.
Yeah, and that's where all the big records and everything controlled is the German army. Just like, some of the army posts here in the country, that was the main army post for the Gestapo headquarters. Besides Hitler's headquarters in Berlin. Of course, Hitler never got it. He was just mouthpiece and power he voted in back years before that, when Brown shirts taken over Hitler come to power. I think he come to power in 1933 or 34.
Right. Mm.
Yeah.
You had said last time we talked that you went to a concentration camp at Nordhausen, and you had to wear a parachute around over your face.
I had to wear a handkerchief or something so you didn't want to breathe or the smell. You put something over your dead bodies and everything. See, they work these people, take them in slave labor and work them till they drop dead, then pick them up and throw them in a wheelbarrow or something, big bar or something like that there, and then eventually they either take them out and put them in a grave, no coffin and no box or nothing like that, just dig a hole and put them in, or they take them and throw them into the steel mill furnaces and burn them up. Yeah, it was awful to me.
Do you remember how you felt about that? Do you remember what your emotional reaction to that was?
well, it wasn't easy to digest. It wasn't easy to digest at all. It made you think. Now, how could anybody do stuff like that? And even the German people didn't know. Now, in another town over there, we captured a German supply depot. And it had all kinds of food in there, but people around it didn't know it was that much food the Germans, for the Germans was available. But when we found it and seeing these people starving and didn't have it, we distributed it until the American Army Corps came in, the military come in and take an inventory and set it up for a store for the people. And they had all kinds of beverages and booze. They kept it all over, and rice and beans and sugar and meat, canned meats, stuff. They confiscated from Africa, see, and all over. They shipped it in there. It was a big house, big warehouse.
Paul, when you went to the concentration camp, had it been liberated before you got there?
Had it been
Liberated? Had people come to help those who were?
Oh, well, see, when you move in like that there, at the concentration camp, you had to take it as you found it and find out where the people were friendly or not. You had to screen them.
Were you the first troops at this concentration camp?
Yeah, well, what we did, we just set up a screen around security. Nobody went in, nobody come out until the military government got there. And if he started out, well, then we locked him up or sent him to the concentration camp for screening. If anybody tried to buck the lines. See, I was in, we set up in Karlsruhe in the forest down there, Karlsruhe, where, right near where General Patton, I believe, he got killed. Did he get killed?
Yeah, he got in an automobile accident there.
Yeah, it's just outside of where he got killed at, and that was after the war.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some reason he got tangled up in a convoy, trying to force his way through a convoy, and an accident. Yeah.
So you eventually went inside to the concentration camp, and you saw for your.
Yeah, well, we went inside. We had to go through the sections of where they burnt and melted steel and made all the armor and stuff like that there to see that there wasn't nobody else in there that wasn't supposed to be in there. A lot of Gestapos was in there. It had Gestapos, just like the government. Here you can't you can't prosecute one unless you find out the details. But you had to get them all and find out who they were. And the only way we found out was when we captured the Gestapo headquarters up in the Black Forest. And oh, it was a beautiful place up there, though.
What was it like?
Yeah, I was there for about 3 days for the military, and we've had these big trucks, troop trucks with beds and everything. We haul Army supplies out to First Army headquarters, and then that way when we screen the prison war camps and everything like that there, we could find out what the ranks were and everything. The picture and their family and everything, and where they were born, raised, everything, and how many children had, and what outfit they belonged to and everything. It was one of the most up-to-date intelligence reports that you could find. And when you piece them all together, that's how come to understand that who was who, and who was doing the dirty work, and who was goofing off. Yeah.
Paul, did you ever cry?
Huh?
Did you ever cry?
Did I ever cry?
Did you ever have a moment to stop and try to take everything in?
Oh yeah. I've cried many times. I mean, it's just things it gets next to you for a time, but there's nothing you can do about it, so you just have to walk on through life and try to not let it happen no more. That's the only thing you can do.
We had talked before, and you talked about the Elbe River when you got to the Elbe River, and you met the Russians.
Yeah, Elbe River, yeah.
What was that like?
That was rough, Elbe River. Crossing the Elbe. That was up near Berlin, I believe it was. That was when we were going towards Berlin. We hadn't got to Berlin. And Lieutenant Steele and his driver and assistant, they was on a survey for a scout. And Armstrong was his name, the driver. And they come over losing their lives up there, but Lieutenant Steele did get wounded, and Armstrong, he got back and everything, but they got his Jeep and everything. The Germans, at this particular thing, they had set up their small artillery guns and things and had covered them with hay in the fields. It was on a plain, and the road run right through the field. And when they got up into it, and they had to get out of it when they found out that the Germans were in there. Mm. And that's I don't know where the radio operator made it back or not. He was what was his name now? Edvino or something like that was his last name, something like that. I don't know where he made it back or not.
Did you have a drink with the Russians?
Yeah, I had some good old vodka up on the Elbe River, up there, other side of Berlin, when we met. But we was there for approximately a week in that area before we start moving back and dividing. But the only reason we got back away from them, they was trying to steal our Jeeps, because they had Jeeps that with stars on the side of them like that, and trying to take our Jeeps away from us and everything. We didn't want to fight with them anymore. We didn't fight, but they come up on one side of the river and we come up on the other. That's where we met at. And that was just about the end of the war in Germany activity.
How did you find out the war ended? Do you remember the day that happened? What happened? How did you find out the war was over?
Do we?
How did you find out the war was over?
I didn't. All the war was declared over about something like two or 3 weeks before we got word upon the line.
Wow.
Yeah. They decided they'd come to surrender. The Germans had surrendered, and Hitler was in Berchtesgaden in prison at the time, and his made his name as he was
Eva Braun.
Yeah. They were all in Berchtesgaden and Himmler, and we had Hess already in England in prison.
Mm-hmm.
and we had Romo. Romo got, I think he got killed or
He committed suicide.
committed suicide. Yeah, he was down in southern Germany at the time. But of all the generals from the history of the German army, Rommel was the most fairest general, more human-like than the other generals I could find out about. Because, see, we knocked his Jeep out at St. Lo, and he got away. But we got his driver and got his Jeep and a couple of his escorts. We put them in a concentration camp. That's how come. No, see, when we capture somebody, we hold them until we can, the military police take them back to the stockade or you know. See, Martinsburg, West Virginia, up there where Baker's Hospital is right now, that was a German war camp here in the United States. They take all the high brass and stuff like that there, and the ones that wasn't a big expense to our government, and put them over here, and they worked. Yeah. Until they had the trials and everything, and screened them and sent them back home.
50,000 Germans surrendered at St. Lo. Tremendous number of prisoners.
Yeah. Just like in the last town I was in that did any patrolling or get to know screening in the town was Hillsbach.
Mm.
And that was not too far out of Heidelberg. And while I was in Hillsbach, I met a lot of German people. And in fact, there's one place that we built it in, we had built it in different homes. But we put these, we take the good homes and put them in part of it, and we had built it on maybe the first or second or front part of the house, and it was sort of like a mansion, and they had a railroad station there, and they had a farm. The farm, it was all had this cherry farm. They raised a lot of cherries there, and corn, and beets, and most of the women worked in the fields, and around the town, and I tell you, they was real kind of civilized, you know. I was there for quite a while in that town. We had the front of the house. You come in this big, like a double doorway. You come in, and then your stairway went up on each sides of different parts of the house. Then in the back, had a very big kitchen, and the back of the house, they had the dairy attached onto the house and everything. And they had the kitchens and everything back there. So the old people would take care of the house part, and the young people would go out and work. And one of the guys, he had been in the German army, but it was war. He was in. He talked about it. He didn't like it. And his sister, she was a conductor for the German railway. And that's where I got to drink what you call schnapps. Yeah. One of the Germans said he had a distillery down the hill there next to the railroad place, and he was a brewer of schnapps. And I used to talk to him down there when we cleaned up, but he had no part in the war. He wasn't even interested in the war. He was just an old timer.
What were the rules regarding American soldiers talking to German women?
Well, we couldn't, what do you call it, fraternize. We weren't allowed to take any parts in fraternizing or trying to go out of the way with any of them. Because it was against our rule. You could talk to them, or you could give them a cigarette or something like that there, or they, or share a drink with them or something like that there. But that's about as far as you could go. Because if you did anything else, we never knew it. After the war was over, I did 18 months of security and screening and going places and picking up troops.
Where was
bring
that?
them in. Yeah.
Where was that? Where were you doing that? In Germany?
Yeah. See, you would test. See, when I was in Russelsheim. That's the railroad, big railroad center. And there was a displaced prison camp there. I got to know a lot of the displaced Polish and everything, all over. And so more or less it's just to see the welfare of the people that was in there and to scream and see that nobody came in to bother, to disturb their residence.
You were in Russellheim, and what were the biggest problems that the Germans faced when the war was over?
Well, in Russelsheim, when I was in Russelsheim, there was more or less screening and secured the government buildings and riding patrol in town. Just like you patrol towns, something like that. Some people go after certain curfew hours and things like that, just to keep the peace. But in Russelsheim, when I taken R&R and went to Switzerland, I was over in Switzerland for two weeks. I traveled all up and down through Switzerland, taken in a lot of places, and it was nice. On Lake Geneva, and all that. And when I came back, most of my outfit had shipped out to the States. Yeah, so I went with a tank outfit for the first infantry tank outfit for about a month or so. I was riding around the tank.
I think there's a picture of you in a tank here. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Until they could find out what they want me to go to or replace me where I want to go. And I ended up going to the 84th Infantry Division. And that's when I was in Hillsbach. That's who I come home with when they came home, 84th Infantry.
There was a chance that you were going to be going to Japan.
Oh yeah, I just after I left Germany and everything, and when I left Hillsbach, they rounded up us fellas up in Karlsruhe and Hillsbach and all, and put us on a train and sent us. After they screened us, I'd have came home when I came back from Switzerland if I'd had more points. See, I only had 65 points. And you had to have over 65 points at that time or a certain amount of service before you could come home.
So all the service, all the battles that you had been in and survived and made it through, you 1 point away from being able to go home.
Yeah, 1 point away, and the outfit moved home and came back to the state, and they sent me back to Germany, and then I was ended up taking more training up there. I forget the town right now. It wasn't Beatrice, it was another town.
Was it Hillsbach?
Huh?
Was it Hillsbach?
A hilltop?
Hillsbach?
Hillsbach.
Is that the name of the town?
Well, Hillsbach, that's where I was at one of the last places before I moved to the final. I was in another town before.
So you were training to
After
go to
I left
Japan.
Hillsbach, huh?
So they sent you to a town in Germany to train you more, to get you ready to go to Japan.
Yeah, the thing of it is, see, when I left Hillsbach, they decided that we'd go to Japan, but they brought me back. And I went to Karlsruhe from Hillsbach, and then went from Karlsruhe, after taking some training in Karlsruhe,
What kind of training?
just learn Japanese and to learn the rifle from some of the Japanese, get an orient map of where we're going, and new equipment. And they sent us to down southern France to the port down there. When we got down there, the ships had taken a bunch of troops to Japan, and they hadn't got back, and the ships wasn't available, so they put us down and trained us for a couple of weeks, and then sent me back to Hillsbach.
Why did they send you?
Hillsbach and when they sent me back up there, I stayed in Hillsbach for a while, and then when I left Hillsbach, I did get to come home after that. But it was like, hurry up and get there and then back. It was just like that.
Do you know why they decided to send you home rather than put you on a boat?
Well, I had enough points in because the war was in Japan was over. They dropped the atom bomb.
So that's what happened.
Yeah, when they dropped the atom bomb, I showed up and not see the troops that was on there. They went over there and they just got over to do occupations, but left the harbor ahead of us, and the boats were still at sea. They hadn't got back, and that hurricane and the storm on them in the Pacific too. We were there 26 days, and our ship went off the course for 2 days or more. I mean, 200 miles off the course. That's what I meant to say. And when we got back, we come into Camp Amboy, New York. And then I went back to another place up there. See what is it, port name? Port Amboy was where we landed at up there, but we went out to
Did you take the train to Fort Meade from there?
from
From
up,
Port Amboy to?
yeah, from
Fort
up there. Taking the train come to Fort Meade, and I was there for 9 or 10 days. They wanted to sign up or re-sign up for re-enlist. And I told them I had enough of it. I want to go home. And they said, well, we're going to give you a pass to go home, and you make up your mind and let us know later. And so when I was home, I said, well, I ain't going back. I'll notify them I want my discharge. I want it out.
When you were at La Havre.
But I had to go through a physical at Fort Meade. It's one reason that I went back and told them, you know, I was in the hospital after 9 days. I had like part of pneumonia, flu, or something. But they kept me in the hospital for 9 days and screaming and sent me home. And that's they also got notice about my frozen feet and everything while I was over there, and about the doctor pulling my teeth, and I've become anemic, and my blood pressure was off, my blood was out of order, and by having chickenpox when I was 7 years old, and when you get up past 45, if you ever had a chickenpox, anybody, you can. They call it the avian flu. You have a headache, and you're not all there, and you're still anemic. And then you break out, just like this places like this on here, and you dry skin. And then when it gets that, they call it shingles, or whatever. And that's what I'm trying to clean up some of the things. And I'm still anemic, and I'm still getting over, and I have psoriasis. See, it all comes from chickenpox. And I was 55 or 60 years old before chickenpox showed up on me. It comes back if you ever had them. You look in the Health Journal, you can get the history on chickenpox, people that's had them.
What was the scariest part of the war to you after everything you experienced and saw? Where were you most scared? When were you most scared?
He was on needles all the way through. I tell you, you didn't know. You tried to do your job and to take care of your friends and yourself too, and you couldn't go to sleep on the job. That's for sure. You had to. See, I used to be right fast. I used to run. Even before I went into service, I worked hard on the farm, and I worked in a defense plant, and I did a lot of carpenter work. That's how I come in end up at Fort Belvoir in the Engineer Corps. See? And that was rough when they put you through it. See, we were supposed to take 22 weeks of basic training when I went from the National Guards over into the regular Army at Fort Belvoir when I come of age, 18. And they cut that 22 weeks of basic training and medical and all that sort of stuff down to 17. And I like to freeze the gap building roads up in the Skyland Drive, Big Meadows, Virginia. We taking 2 weeks up in the snow was like that down. We sleeping in pup dens 15 below zero up there.
Getting you ready for the Hurtgen Forest.
Huh?
Getting ready for the Hurtgen Forest.
No, that's coming out of basic.
Oh, I know.
And they were wet, ever wet and cold down on Anthony Bay and on the Potomac and Lorton down there. And we hiked all over that. We went on 2 50-mile hikes. Forced marches while I was there.
What do you think got you through all of this?
Huh?
What do you think got you through all of this? Did you pray a lot? Were you thinking about your mom back home? Were you thinking about...
Oh, yeah. And
what do you think got you through all this?
well, I knew what was going on back home pretty much, because from our news that would come over ABC radio, what was going on here in the States, and from the communications that they passed along to us when we called together, you know, they had way of getting the news to the troops, how things were. Now, see, one place I was in basic training when I was overseas when my dad died. But I got home on a 7-day leave from England, and I had to go back. They put him at home on transport, and I had to catch the train back. My dad died of blood poisoning. He butchered. He butchered everybody's hogs and cattle and things, beef and everything, and worked on a farm up here on 340 up here between here and Bentonville and Lee Ray, all up and down the valley here in the fall of the year, and when the butchering season was for individual farmers. People used to butcher their own stock and hang their own meat and can their own pork chops and everything. That's the way it was. It didn't have us running to the grocery store like you do today and get all that fancy wrap and you get home and it ain't no good. I tell you, I got half a melon yesterday. They cut and put on ice in the store. The lady that comes in helps me once a week to do things, clean a little bit, and cook a meal if I need it, or do the laundry or something like that. And she bought it and at the store. She knew I liked cantaloupe. They come in and it was all wrapped up and it come off the ice. And don't hard tell how long it's been wrapped up and how long it had been in the store on ice. And it's tough. I still got some of it in the refrigerator at home. I had to cut it and put it in a plastic thing and let it ripen. I got it now where it's kind of soft where I can eat it. But at first it wasn't so good. And I've got several things like that. I don't buy a lot of that stuff out of the store like that.
Paul, did you pray a lot when you were over in Europe?
Did I play a lot?
Did you pray?
Yeah, I went to, we had chaplains that come out on the battlefields and view the troops with us. And we get in a little town, we get held up for an hour or two or something like that. You had a chaplain with you. We had medics with us too. We had a sergeant, tech sergeant, and Sergeant Spatz, and Corporal Alavina. They were all medics. Them three stayed with my battery. They were with us 24 hours a day. My name is James Walter Edward Willis Sr. My age is 87 at this date, come July the 26th of 2012. I'll be 87.
What's your birthday?
Yeah, July 26th.
1925.
And my birth date was born on July. What do you want, time of the day?
No, I just want you to say your birthday.
It was late evening 5 something. I forget to about 5 o'clock on July 26, 1925.
Thank you.